Good evening, all. Today is Monday, May 24, Village Board for the Village of Pleasantville, beginning our work session today at 7. We have a regular session at 8. The first item on our work session agenda is a discussion with the folks at Spectrum Designs and the Nicholas Center regarding their CDBG grant application. Welcome, Nicole and Patrick. Glad to have you here, as well as glad to have these two entities here in Pleasantville, New York. I commented in a previous meeting about the opening event that was held at Spectrum Designs and the good work going on down there. Delighted to have you, having put down roots in Pleasantville. Hello.
Hello, thank you so much for having us. We're really excited to be here.
Great to be here. Yeah, I was in Pleasantville all day and most of the weekend too. We've been incredibly busy, so I'm always sad to leave now. I've really, in a short period of time, become very attached to the place.
Well, I had this conversation with you. You don't have to leave.
I know.
You can move.
I know. It would certainly help with the commute.
All right. So these guys have been in conversation with Eric about a CDBG grant proposal, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Take it away. Tell us about it.
So I think, Nicole, can you share the is it okay?
Oh, can I share screen? Did you want me to?
I'm happy to show it if you want, Nicole.
Oh, that's perfect. That's perfect. I think Patrick will start off if you happen to have the.
Yeah, and then Noreen, if you don't mind, I'll just.
Is that okay?
I do.
Yep.
So is that the?
Let me just go back one. Sorry.
Yeah.
Looks like it skipped. There we go.
Okay, well, and Noreen, I'll just sort of say next slide if that's okay, whenever you're ready to change. So thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for having Nicole and I tonight, and also in your incredible village of Pleasantville. We're thrilled after a long search and a long process to be here. It's a lot to find the right community, and we looked in lots of different places, and we were just so Pleasantville had the things that we were looking for and is exceeding all our expectations already. So for those of you who don't know Nicole and I, we're co-founders of Spectrum Designs and the Nicholas Center. I'm the co-founder and CEO. Nicole serves as Spectrum's development specialist and grant writing expert. And at Spectrum Designs, we and the Nicholas Center just turned 10 years old. And our main kind of slogan is sort of change your purchase, change their future. And our main focus is creating employment and inclusive work opportunities for those on the autism spectrum. Next slide, please. So the journey, how we got here, you can see the bottom right there, myself and my two co-founders who are both parents, principally of children on the autism spectrum who are now in their 20s and approaching their 30s, Nicholas is. And basically in 2011, they, were looking at opportunities for their children, looking at what was there for adults after high school, which is known as the service cliff when individuals with disabilities graduate, and on Long Island, and realized that what was out there just really wasn't really appropriate for their children and those like them, and with such a high unemployment rate and real dearth of opportunities in New York and around the country, it's around 80%. They said, and they did what a lot of parents and mothers in particular I've seen in my time here have done, which is just blaze the trail. And if there isn't one, they'll create one. So we started in Stella's backyard barn, kind of the American story, and on Long Island, 200 square feet with just their two boys as our kind of guinea pigs. And we said, you know what, we need to create businesses. And the first business was the t-shirt business. And that's the business we have today in Pleasantville. And as it says here, the business was born out of necessity. We really wanted to create opportunities. Stella's son is called Nicholas. So at the same time, we founded the Nicholas Center, which was going to be the human service agency, the kind of wraparound model, sort of like an ARC, to provide the job coaching and the community integration and the life skills with their skilled educators, and allow Spectrum Designs to achieve our mission of employment, because a lot of our employees need that some level of ongoing support to make them successful. So as it says here, over the past 5 years, we've really, even though we're a 501c3, we've always focused on being an enterprise and being sustainable and growing quickly. And projects like the Community Development Block Grant have allowed us to really accelerate our growth and open our doors wide as possible. And as it says here, we've opened in Pleasantville, but we have no plans of slowing. Next slide, please. So, the why in Westchester, the why is a national question. It's one in, I think 54 individuals are now born with autism. In the next decade, 500,000 are going to graduate in the United States out of high school and face an 80% unemployment rate. In New York State, it's about 67%. This is pre-pandemic, these numbers, so we expect them to be higher now. And since the pandemic, 1 in 5 individuals with disabilities have lost these precious few jobs. And so when we look at the why, as it said at the top there, 24,000 New Yorkers are on the spectrum of working age. And employment is something that's just so important in terms of not just, and we'll get to it later, but not just the fiscal reasons, but also the social and the kind of emotional reasons. But when people aren't employed, they're disconnected, they feel isolated from their community. And our hope is that by being in Pleasantville and having our individuals who were previously not working, now they're going to help stimulate the economy. They're no longer collecting as much Social Security, they're paying taxes. And so there's an economic benefit to it, as well as the obvious social element of it. There's also a large hesitation of other employers. There's still a nervousness around creating jobs for those on the spectrum. And there's not enough information out there about the benefits. And there really are some tremendous benefits to this really untapped group about hiring. Next slide, please. The why continued, it's, as I talked about earlier, adult day programs, overcrowding. People have heard of sheltered workshops. We're very clearly not one in terms of making sure that we're paying people minimum wage or above, that people are engaged, that it's an integrated workforce working with and without alongside those who are disabled or non-disabled. We call it neurodiversity, meaning that there's a diverse group of minds, all kinds of minds. The estimated lifetime cost for someone on Social Security is around $2 million if they're not working and engaged. So there's that kind of economic point again. But also, it's not just about the individual. The parents are 4 times more likely to quit working or to have to do reduced hours to help take care of their son or daughter who is, disabled. And that obviously adds to poverty and working underneath the poverty gap and increases all kinds of risks. So, this isn't just about the individual themselves, but their family and those around them. And as I said there, the future in terms of how many people are in the next decade, 50,000 a year graduating to face these really high unemployment numbers. So it really is a social and community issue for all of us. Next slide, please. So who we are, I talked a little bit about our why and then the who. So as I said, a full service custom apparel printing business. We've had a great couple of weeks. I'm going to name drop because I guess I have to. But we were in Pleasantville all weekend printing for the Knicks and the Nets for the playoffs, doing the rally towels and the shirts. It was so cool and really exhausting. But thank goodness we had the space and the capacity to do it. And I think it really sends a great message to everyone at those games that people who may otherwise have been underestimated could do this. So as I said, we're a nonprofit, 100% of our proceeds go back into the mission, which is really nice. We provided over 80,000 hours of meaningful work and over $1 million in wages and counting. We opened in Pleasantville in at the end of 2020, which was a feat in itself for obvious reasons. We were shut down for about 5 months and just slowed and bringing people back, and we would start again on the construction, the renovation project. And then of course someone would get sick, and then, so it just was a real challenge. Thank goodness we made it. We're open. We're just in time for the playoffs. And it's been great. And we have 4 individuals that are already slated to be employed. And 5 jobs already secured to local people in Westchester and another 4 on the way. And our goal by October is to have 18 total. So we're about halfway there, but everyone's in training now. And we also have 2 sister companies on Long Island, Spectrum Suds, which is a laundry business, and Spectrum Bakes, which is a kind of gourmet granola business. Maybe one day they'll come to Westchester, but right now they're a little smaller and they're in Long Island. Next slide, please. So again, I'm name dropping, I apologize, but these are some of our clients. I think it's important because it shows that, you know, these are companies that, sure, they may give us one chance if we, you know, because of our mission, but to keep them and to be delivering for them, we have to be price competitive, quality driven. We have to be a solution for them. These are companies that have budgets. These are nonprofits that have budgets. So for us, it's really important that we show that and show that, you know, this is not necessarily like, yes, we're a nonprofit, but we really do operate as a sustainable business because we want to grow as quickly as possible. And we've been able to do that with the help of the Community Development Block Grant, which allows us to buy machinery and things like that to keep up with clients like this who are helping us grow. Next slide, please. So another thing that I'm really proud of with the Pleasantville location, because it is an entirely electric building, we work with Con Edison on their renewable energy program, and 100% of the building is powered by renewable energy through Con Edison. So that building is a carbon zero, which is a first for us, and we're really, and it's a real first in our industry. Our industry has historically not been great for that. For many years, we've used eco-friendly inks and soy-based cleaners, largely, even though we're committed to the planet, but principally because of the individuals, the vulnerable individuals we work with. You know, dangerous inks and cleaners was just never going to be something that worked for us. And the nice ripple effect of that is obviously the planet. But we've also taken steps with our poly bags, you know, when the amount of plastic that comes with garments and shipping, we use compostable bags, recyclable boxes from the Sustainable Forest Initiative. And we also disclose our carbon impact to the Carbon Disclosure Project. So we believe we have a great mission about, you know, creating jobs for those who are disabled or on the autism spectrum, but we all have to live on this planet, and we want to take care of it. Next slide, please. Again, talk about transparency. We're proud to be a nonprofit. We're proud to have received support from New York State, and Nicole's going to talk a little bit about that and hopefully be a candidate for this. But we recognize when people are, you know, giving to us or, you know, advocating for us or championing us, we have to be super transparent. So, you know, we're proud of these accolades here. You know, paying people at least minimum wage is really important. Training our staff, those with and without disabilities, to understand our visual supports. We have a unique model with our HR. She's a licensed social worker, and I think that's really important. 1 in 4 of us experience mental health challenges, and I'm sure that number's higher since the pandemic. So having someone on staff who's trained in mental health and so experienced not only helps our neurodiverse employees, but honestly, everyone. I think it's a model that probably should be replicated in all corporate America as well. And as I said, it's important to us that we're transparent with what we're doing. And so we get Guide Star and things like that. And then, as we talked about, our collaboration with the Nicholas Center really allows us to make sure that our trainees and our employees are supported throughout their journey with us. And I think that's the very unique part of the model. When we were coming to Pleasantville, it was about partnering our 2 nonprofits and coming together. And I think that's been part of the magic. Next slide, please. So at this point, I'm going to pass over to Nicole, because this is a little bit more detail about the application and kind of what we're looking to do. And Nicole's really our expert here. So I will pass over to Nicole at this point.
Oh no, if I'm the expert, I just know we have job numbers that we have to reach. And I think really important for all of you is that as great as all of this sounds, is this a project? Is it eligible for funding? I think that so I'm going to touch upon that, maybe walk through the key points of the actual project. And that way, I just wanted to verify for you that it is meeting the national objectives, as well as once you pass through that phase, that it is an eligible activity. So there are several things going on, or that we were actually able to apply for. This particular presentation is primarily focused on property acquisition. But let's first go to the national objective, which is really the first thing on the offset to make sure that we are indeed at least meeting one of the 3 national objectives. And in this case, we will be benefiting low and moderate income persons. And the criteria for benefiting low and moderate income persons in regards to HUD would be of anyone with an annual income of equal to or less than the 80% of the area median household income. So in our case, 100% of the jobs created, whether it be for people with or without autism, will all be in the threshold of at or below the 80%. Most of them, I'm going to guess, at least 80% will be in the extremely low income or the very low income. Because the majority of the people that will be employed are people who otherwise had either never held a job or have had very chronic unemployment history, or who are currently eligible for many social services and public assistance programs. So in addition to that, we are also looking to, so basically the program or the project or the acquisition of this property will also allow for job creation and or retention of those in once they actually acquire a job. I think one of the greatest marks that we have as an organization, or what Spectrum has allowed, is the data suggests that while the employment opportunities or those who gain employment are very low, even fewer are those who actually retain their jobs. So I think that we've worked, together in great synergy over the past 10 years, and have really worked to address the unique needs of those, particularly on the autism spectrum. They are currently one of the greatest, the most underserved population, according to national vocational rehabilitative agencies, and that's nationwide, because they have very unique and splintering kind of challenges as well as talents. It usually works well when when the job coaches and those who are providing the support have a special interest or specialty training in the autism population or in other social communication and behavioral disorders. So with that, so we certainly take the box off for the national objective, and then we must also make sure that we're an eligible CDBG activity or service. Again, this particular application through Spectrum Designs will be about property acquisition, and I think Patrick had passed along that budget. And in regards to the actual let's see here, what do we have? Okay, so you have to meet, there's 3 different performance measurement systems that we have to make sure we are able to measure the success of the program or monitor the effectiveness of it. And in regards, there are 3 different areas to that. And that would be, we'd be able to measure our objectives by creating economic opportunity, showing that we are creating an activity that provides job creation and job retention. In regards to an outcome measurement, we would be able to measure the number of employment opportunities, as well as the type of infrastructure that allowed for these services that otherwise wouldn't have otherwise been made available to those who were unemployed. And in regards to performance indicators, there are several. We'll be able to speak to the number of persons served, the number of those in a specific income bracket, household bracket. Will be able to speak to their current, the current or thereafter income status, their race, their ethnicity, as well as their disability categories. And because Spectrum Designs works so closely with the Nicholas Center being a public service, which will perhaps be a secondary application, because you couldn't really apply, Spectrum wants to apply for property acquisition, whereas Nicholas Center is more of a public service, providing those wraparound services. So it would be 2 separate applications if we decided to move forward with doing something with Nicholas Center in regards to complementing this particular grant. But this particular grant for property acquisition, we'd be able to note, we'd be able to document a lot of the criteria for low income measurement, primarily because through the Nicholas Center, they have to kind of meet certain thresholds and be eligible for these types of wraparound services. So because we are involved in that, we would be able to provide Spectrum with those criteria. But we have in the past for Department of Labor grants, Spectrum in itself does give standalone income eligibility applications to individuals, just so that we have an extra backup to show that these individuals do indeed fall into that category. So. Yeah, that's pretty much it. We clearly tick off all of the boxes in regarding in regards to filing the application. I think when we went on to read the Westchester particular CDBG application, it did require, unlike that we've been familiar with in Nassau County, it required this extra layer of support from the local consortium that we would be operating in. And that's really what brings us here today to you, to give you an opportunity to ask in more detail about the plan, or any questions that you may have. And I'm not really sure what's the next part of this slide, if you can switch over. So some of the objectives in purchasing the 199 Tompkins Avenue facility, I believe it was dormant for about 3 years, right, Patrick? And one of the things, you know, we've worked with the landlord. He's a wonderful gentleman. I believe that, you know, he's trying to work with us. Throughout this entire pandemic, we've been leasing the property, and that's come at a tremendous expense, obviously. But he's been quite flexible, and we've been very lucky to gain the support of Economic State Development, Empire State Development, who is also has also committed to $240,000. So we have leverage, you know, so there are the monies are leveraged there if you were to assist us in getting this application. Not through, but, you know, giving it your blessing. We find that we've been most successful bringing different multi-layer funding streams in order to make, you know, the greatest impact, putting all dollars really hard at work, and something that all different departments, government, state, local, even the community, they all have something to be proud about. So as I said, I believe we're looking to purchase the property after this long-term lease hold that we've had it for some time, and certainly by 2022. And this is what this application is primarily here to support. Do you have any questions about what we've spoken about so far?
So you've negotiated an option to buy at a specific price?
Yes. Yeah, that was in the lease. Yeah, that was in the lease. Essentially, the owner wanted to sell 2 years ago, and he had it on the market for sale. We found the location. We said, we're not ready to buy. We haven't even moved here yet, and it needs extensive renovations. And he said, okay, I'll give you a 2-year lease with an option to buy. And in fairness, he gave a credit of the rent. About 33% of the rent is also going towards the final purchase price. But I feel like he wants to sell it. We will want to sell it, you know, when the lease is up in October. And we've obviously spent a lot of money making the place a lot nicer. If anyone who remembers what it was like before, you know, the landscaping, we've changed the envelope of the building, we've upgraded the lights and the heating system. So it would be a travesty for us if we weren't able to purchase this at this point. But you know, we that's what we're seeking the funding for, so we could really establish a permanent home. I think what'll happen then is, you know, there'll be more confidence in the project and the building, and we'll see what happened in Long Island with people moving into the community and realizing that this isn't a 2-year kind of project. This is a long-term project, and with the plans of enriching the community for many years to come.
Well, so I mean, from my standpoint, having been through the building with you guys, not only have you done an impressive job, but such an impressive venture in every respect. So you certainly have my solid 100% support, and we'd be happy to lobby in gentle ways if that's helpful as well.
Yeah, I think that from my understanding, again, this is unfamiliar component that we don't necessarily have in Nassau County, but that there is I guess a particular person on your committee that would attend or, sign off on whatever the application would be. You would get the final application and you would look it over and make sure, put it through some due diligence. And we'd be able to answer or do whatever you would like us to do or to comment on. So you feel confident in it. And then I believe there's 4 meetings a year, or I'm not really sure. If anyone has, I'm sure you know better than I what the process entails.
Well, we can help navigate that.
Who's the funding body for this?
It's community development block grants, which are monies that are distributed by HUD to county consortia.
And is the committee a county committee or that decides on the distribution of the grants?
It's a county committee.
And it's there's a Westchester Urban County Consortium, which is made up of several of your villages. So because, let's say the project was happening in either White Plains or some of the larger municipalities, we would have applied to there. But I believe there was some formation of several Western urban, of several villages in your area that created this kind of consortium. And you would have to apply to each specific, go through this particular exercise.
Right. So Eric, I would assume the prospects here are reasonable. Nothing is certain, obviously, but it's a great project in ticking a lot of boxes. What do you think?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's got a great chance to go through the process and get support.
Thank you very much. Another slide, but any other questions we'd be happy to answer for you, but we really thank you for your time. I know you have a lot of work on your agenda.
It's great to hear what you guys are doing.
There's the budget right there. That's the fun stuff. So again, this is an acquisition and renovation budget, and we would still be able to go through with it to, if it was only partially funded, and that's all explained within the grant application.
Right.
Sustainability of the project.
And how much do you hope you might get out of CDBG?
Well, it looks like there's a max of $250,000 that each.
That'd be fine, right?
Yeah, 250 is the max, and they typically allow for a 3-year presentation of, if, let's say, for a public service grant, we may ask for $25,000 a year for the next 3 years for, let's say, public services, which pays for more of staffing and the other types of things to help grow with this all of the job goals that we have with this particular project. But since it was a one-shot deal, we had something that could just be a one and done. We don't need to go into, once we purchase the equipment, we can purchase the building, we'll be able to meet the demands of what's outlined in the grant.
All right. Any other questions? All right. Thank you, Patrick. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you guys for the good work you're doing and for having it take root here in Pleasantville, New York. So we'll help you with that. So we'll stay in touch with Eric and try to put a little leverage behind your proposal.
Thank you very much. And you're welcome to come anytime. Please come for tours, or we'll do a virtual one for you if you weren't. Thank you.
I encourage everybody who hasn't been there to go because it's really pretty great. So
yeah. Thank you guys so much. And I see Mr. Hughes here, and I do want to say in this public forum how wonderful the building department was as well. So thank you so much for all your help making the process smooth as well. So just because I see you, Mr. Hughes, thank you so much. And thank you all.
Take care.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
great. Thank you, guys. All right. We're a little behind schedule, but not much. Next up, the Memorial Plaza South Project. Jeff's online here. You saw in our packet an updated budget and an updated plan. I could share the screen of that plan. Is that helpful, Jeff?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
So what we're looking at here on this project, this is the latest, and it shows all the utilities. The one that Peter was showing, Russ had prepared, but it didn't show all the utilities. So that's why I wanted to bring this drawing up. We are looking to, on this area over here, we're looking to put in some lights over here, and that's pretty much some lights that hopefully we are going to approve later. Currently, the electric is in this area, the main panel. The goal is to move the electric panel over to this point, and that's where we would also be looking to put in one of 3 pay stations to eliminate the meters for the future. So then what I would be doing is running a 3/4 inch conduit down. This would be another pay station, so that would handle this area here. I would get the conduit over and put this light in to this point. I would like to, if we get through our approvals tonight and if the board is okay, I could start ordering material tomorrow and hopefully in a couple weeks start to do a portion of this work. This island at this point, as we know, with the future of holding by 70 Memorial, holding the curb line by the railroad side, what has to give is this island. It goes down to about 5 foot in width, and as you see, there are light poles and light 1 1/4 inch conduit, and then adjacent to that, I have 3/4 inch conduit for the 3rd pay station, which would be down in this area. I'm proposing to put sidewalk in this area. Currently, we dump the people into the parking lot and they have to walk across the parking lot to get back onto the sidewalk. So I would take this little bump out, it would become additional landscaping, have sidewalk run down, it would tie into where the stairs are. This space here would be a little bit of landscaping here. We had talked about potentially putting some trees or vegetation in this area, but as you see, there is drainage, existing drainage here. And this hatched area here is where we post, when we have to close the parking lot, we put the VMS sign. That's the variable message sign. We post it right here, so when people are coming in, they have full visibility. So that would restrict that area. You know, we're looking to get all this curbing done around the gazebo, getting this section of this crosswalk and this sidewalk in for future. I know we've wanted to hold this side, and I discussed with Eric, you know, we have 2 options. The quote I gave you, and when you look at it, you'll see it's fairly detailed, did not include touching this sidewalk or curb. To do that, it'd be about another $45,000. We could hold off and do that at any time in the future, or if we want to put it into this budget, it'd be an additional $45,000.
And Jeff, what would that entail? Just improving that?
Some of the sidewalk, you know, it is worn, and just to me aesthetically, you know, we're doing everything else new in the plaza. We want it all uniform, or, you know, we can wait on this. It's, again, that could be done after the fact when we, you know, we make sure we have enough money.
Right.
We do have a lot of things going on. You know, like I say, the other thing that came up was the discussion for charging stations for future. You know, I would need to know that now, because right now we have a 60 amp electric service out there that's doing the lights in the parking lot and doing the gazebo. My proposal was to bring it up to a 200 amp electric service, which would give us adequate. But if we are going to consider doing charging stations, I would need to go to a 400 amp electric service. So currently over in this area is the electric manhole. Con Ed will run new electric service over to this point. And if we are going to do charging stations, the best area for those charging stations would be on this side of the island, which is a good location because it's close to the train station for people for access. Couldn't put it on this side because I would require to bump out the parking spots to have the curb stops here. Couldn't put it behind the sidewalk because of the cable. This side of the island is ideal. I could run the conduit and have it ready for future if we're not going to do it at this point. But that would just affect me with regards to the electric size that I put in the service size.
So how much more would it cost to go to 400 amp?
Well, that's where I was just going to tell you. I've been working with Pete, our electrician, and with Con Ed. It'll be a minimal increase because we could get grants. Con Ed would pay for 90% of it.
Oh, wow.
So is there any downside to getting 400 amp?
Not really. And I need, if we're going to move forward, I would just need to let them know that, why we'd go to a 400 amp and, the electric service. It would be a bigger electric panel here, not a big deal, and why I run this conduit over here for the lights, and I would get this one light in, so it would be two lights that I would have to install. I would run over the electric and cap it over here. So when we do this island and we have a better design of which spots we want to use, it's all ready to go. So we don't have to touch anything in the future.
How big a physical object is the 400 amp box?
It's an electric panel. It's typical. You're like a 200 amp electric service. It's just got a larger breaker panel. So it's probably a 2 foot by 3 foot electric panel.
Can it be low or does it have to be up eye level?
It needs to be off the ground. It's got to be, sort of, if you see where the current 60 amp electric service, it's got to be up that high. But what I was going to do is zoom in here. We were going to have one of the pay stations here. So this would be
right.
This would be your enclosure. That's the footprint. Right behind it, it would be mounted right behind it. So it would, it would blend in with the pay station. So it wouldn't be, sitting out there.
Right.
Right. And we can landscape around it. So
all right. So, it's pretty hard to argue that we should not do the 400 amp. Would you agree?
Correct. I think we should. And like I say, I'll just run the conduit over here and wait till we decide which spots we want to put it in.
Right.
Yeah, it sounds like a no-brainer to me too.
So, I think all of this reflects the right set of decisions. Recognize that there are some regrettable pieces to it, and one of them is that we will lose all the trees that are currently in the median between Bedford and the gazebo.
Correct. Down
because it is no longer going to be wide enough to sustain them. Honestly, it's not doing a great job of sustaining them as it is, but they are trees nonetheless.
Yeah.
So that's a regrettable loss. We can mitigate it to some degree. You thought, Jeff?
Well, you'll get additional planting in this island that you could.
Right.
I think along this whole corridor here, we could do additional planting. What I'm proposing to do, these concrete slabs here are quite large where the benches are.
Right.
I don't think we need to be recessed back that far. So when I run this electric, I'll take these slabs out. I'll pour a new slab, bring it back about 5 foot instead of 1 foot off. So you're sitting closer to the sidewalk. And, we'll get additional green space in here. Down here, this hill right here, you're going to have additional green space here. You'll have additional green space here. What we need to think about, we don't need to make a decision tonight, is how we want to handle this island here. I think we want to try to make it as sort of as maintenance free. The lights, if we approve them tonight, we're talking 12 weeks. So I will not touch this island until August. I will have everything else done prior to that. So all these lights over here will be operational the way I've configured the wiring. So the only thing that will not be changed will be this island because of the lead time with the lights.
So we have until then to decide what the treatment should be in that 5-foot band, right?
Yeah, and Kathy Dinkel, I've met with her, with Eric. Maybe if you want to do a stamped concrete or something along that, and even Kathy was okay with it if we went like with a green color, just something so it's not concrete color gray. And I'm fine with that. And the only thing I would suggest is if we do that, let's do it the right way and have the dye put in from the plant. What a lot of people do is they'll pour the concrete and they'll throw some dye on top. So if you get a nick in the concrete, you have whatever you dyed the concrete, then all those nicks you'll see, comes up as the gray, where if you have it mixed through and throughout, if you don't have that to worry about.
All makes sense. I assume there's some cost impact, but nothing.
It's minimal.
Yeah, right. All right.
And if you look at the budget, it's a detailed budget with fittings, concrete, K-crete for when we do work. I mean, it's down to leveling nuts and leveling screws, so it's a tight budget.
So, and just to be clear, day one, once you narrow this median, are you going to restripe the angled side or leave them perpendicular until the other side happens?
I think, we could angle this. That would be probably when we do this island, because I don't
But you would have created the triangle up by the gazebo that would kill a parking space anyway.
Yeah, and we don't know. Vito, this will help Vito in the future. This angled parking and everybody over here, but I'll be done long before Vito. So we'll keep these perpendicular spots here.
Yes.
These parallel spots, and we could just get this more parking over here at this juncture. Because when I start this work, I'll be doing all this work along this edge. I'm looking to hopefully have this work done, majority of it done by the end of July with limited disruption, because then August, the lights will come in August I'll be out milling and paving, and then I get into the rest of my seasons. So I've, sort of getting everything done and cleared off my plates if this project should move forward.
Well, I support it and think we should go ahead. Anybody else have comments or otherwise disagree?
I have just a comment about perpendicular versus angled parking in this phase one. One outstanding item would be the Beeline bus service. We have not had that conversation that we would move the bus stop in the immediate future. So I would just have to fast track that conversation.
The Beeline is are they stopping in the pace bus zone when they are headed?
They're stopping in here at this point.
Right. And then on the way back, they stop next to Taco Project?
Right.
There is no county bus stop on this side. It's just a pace bus stop.
So they only ever go from Bedford to Manville with a county bus. There isn't a reverse run.
I think there is a stop there, but it's not.
There is a stop along Taco Project.
But it's rarely utilized for whatever reason.
All right. So, we can negotiate that. The bottom line here is that Jeff will have, whether we stripe the angles now or not, we need to get our ducks in a row so that when it's possible to have the angled parking on the other side, we're ready to roll.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
All right. take it away, Mr. Econom. We're going to authorize it tonight.
Okay, as soon as you authorize it, I'm told tomorrow I have the money. I'll start ordering material.
All right, great. I thank you, sir. Very much appreciated.
No problem.
Thank you.
Good work.
Thank you.
All right, next item. Right-of-way parking, Summit Place. Nancy Candy is online here. Hello, Nancy. I will share this. Also, Ed Elliott, who had done these drawings, is here. Why don't I share my screen, or Ed, you can, are you the person that should just quickly report what's proposed here?
Right, I'll start off. If we have any questions that pertain to Nancy, I'll refer to her. She's got a relatively steep side access to her property. It's a shared right-of-way. It's actually owned by the town of Mount Pleasant to the left side of her house as you're looking at this drawing. Very steep, difficult to get into. Yeah. The garage is at the back of the house. She'd have to go down the hill, make a right angle turn into the garage. Especially in wintertime, that gets very difficult. So we're looking at trying to create something that's easier for her to use, easier to park the car. So the ideal spot for this, and about the only spot that works because of the landscaping, the telephone pole, and everything else that's going on there, is to the right side of the property, just a little bit to the right of the side of the T intersection with, geez, now I can't remember the name of the road. Skytop, right.
Right.
So the picture in the upper right-hand corner shows the area between the two fir trees. The one on the left is the larger tree, which we're trying to save. The one on the right is, by the time we dig up the side of the hill, we're going to end up losing that one. So it'll be close to the one on the right and a little bit further away from the one on the left to save the bigger tree. The telephone pole now is a little bit to the left of that big tree, and that's about where the water lines go down to the house. The other utilities, the sewer actually goes out the back of the house, and the electric and telephone is overhead from that telephone pole towards the house. So this is really the only spot we can work without making things all difficult all the way around, between the plows putting the snow from Skytop down there, and to try to avoid the telephone pole, the water line, everything else that's on the left side of that tree. We're looking at creating a retaining wall out of the stacked blocks.
That's here. This is the section view, right?
Right. And then having a staircase leading down to the lawn where it levels out. So the staircase details the one above it. The retaining wall on each side of the staircase starts at about knee height, goes up to just a little bit above the curb at the top of the parking area. So
back to the plan,
is a step wall.
Right? This is the block wall, the block retaining wall. Have I got that right, Ed?
Yeah.
And then here's the stair.
Right.
And that's its location in context. So does anything happen to the existing driveway? Nothing?
No, that stays the same. And actually that driveway is a town of Mount Pleasant right-of-way that is shared by the four people or four lots that have access from that.
4 lots and three houses.
So the issue here is the question of establishing essentially front yard parking in the right-of-way. Front yard parking being a zoning violation without a variance, right?
Right.
And the right-of-way requiring a license agreement.
Correct.
So could you make the case, Ed, for why this would be appropriate and others on the street, for example, could be denied?
This lot has that shared access way, which is not wide enough really to parallel park on that in front of where she would have the best access to her house. The others have garages and have more of a driveway leading up to their houses. So out of the 4 lots there, this is the most difficult one to maneuver in and out of.
So this is the property line is here.
Yes,
The way to the back of the property is on this shared right of way.
Yes. The house behind her has access going down that same side, but their driveway continues, it makes a right turn, then a little left turn in front of the house. So they've got a lot more room to maneuver than what she does. And the one on the left is set back a little bit further away from the access and has room for parking in front of the or on the side of the house. So the house to the left has parking on the right side of it. This one doesn't have that additional depth of the lot to the house.
And is it fair to say, I suppose, visible in this image that this, in essence, front yard parking is mostly opposite Skytop Road, right? It's not immediately opposite somebody else's house.
No, it's a little bit to the right side of the road there.
Okay. Other board members have questions, comments?
Go ahead, David.
I was just going to say, I've seen this. If there's an official vote, I won't vote just because Nancy is hosting a meet and greet for me. But it is pretty steep. And I think that rather than the situation we usually deal with where this is about people wanting convenience for visitors or whatever, it seems like a safety issue for the resident.
Michael?
Yeah, I would just say, so that was my neighborhood, and I still walk my dog past your house all the time. It very much feels like the driveway of the person who lives behind you. I mean, just to the naked eye when you see the place. So I appreciate why you're interested in that. And I would also say, I think on Skytop Drive itself, there are a number of front parking spots on other homes in terms of precedent. I didn't look into the paperwork for any of those, but I don't think it would be out of character with other things that are around it in the hilly neighborhood. I don't think it would look unusual or raise any eyebrows, I would say.
So the only, and I agree with you, and I don't say this to be contrary to this proposal specifically, but that is an argument that gets made anytime there is a neighborhood that has quite a few of those things, some of them legal, some of them not. And yeah, there is a point at which it becomes sort of death by a thousand cuts, right? Because it exists elsewhere, it ends up being a precedent, and before you know it, stuff has gotten out of control. I don't see that as the situation here, but I do think it's important that we be clear why we would be open to it here where we would not be in other circumstances. And to be clear, in the end, the zoning board has to approve this, correct, Eric?
Planning Commission.
Zoning board doesn't have to approve it?
No, you would typically refer to the Planning Commission for their review.
Okay. All right.
I agree with Michael's comments. I mean, this seems like sort of a unique situation. And I understand your concerns about setting precedent, Peter. That's something that I think about too. My concerns often have to do with pedestrian issues, but I don't see that really coming into play here. So I'm fine with it, in other words.
Right. Paul, you have an opinion?
I'm for it. I think it is also something for safety reasons. I think that's definitely a good plan, and I know Ed's worked really well, so I definitely trust his explanation. So I'm definitely for it.
All right. So
could I just add on just the one question about snow moving that you brought up, Peter, and that there may, Nancy, you may have to have some comments about them not plowing you in as they come down Summit in the winter, but that's for the future.
So we'll have a license agreement that says we're not responsible for side view mirrors.
Oh,
I would rather, to be honest, snow on a flat level than down that treacherous. It doesn't look as bad as it does in the winter. And I've really nearly totaled on quite a number of times and not get out of the driveway. And I often have to leave to work in the city at the schools at 5:36. So it's not just going into the driveway, I can't get out of it. So it's mostly just safety reasons.
Yeah.
All right, so, I mean, it's clear that our board would be willing to issue a license agreement, and that's what the planning commission needs to know, right, Robert? Yes, got that?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Thank you all. Thank you, Ed. Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you, everyone. I really
Thank
appreciate
you.
your time
All
and
right.
consideration. Bye-bye.
Take care, Nancy.
Bye. Thank you.
COVID protocols.
All right. So there's a ripple effect that the updated, the state of New York actually accepted the CDC's updated mask and social distancing guidance. So I've attached to this agenda item a memo that I'm seeking to send to all village staff. So I wanted to touch on that. I wanted to touch on the pool and our protocols moving forward with the pool, and also touch back on the senior center operations. But let's start with the pool. On Friday, we announced that we'll no longer need the reservation system. We'll have it in our back pocket in case we need to. But at this point, there's no indication that it's necessary. The question becomes, do we still want to stick with the mask protocols that we've communicated to the public? That would be for vaccinated and unvaccinated folks, or do we want to move off of that? So I wanted to chat with the board, get your perspective.
I think at the pool, if you're vaccinated, you shouldn't have to wear a mask. That's my.
At any time, snack bar, restrooms, locker rooms.
Well, at least outside. I mean,
So,
according to what New York State has said, it would be okay anywhere, right? But
Right.
at least outside.
You know, and I'm not disagreeing with you necessarily, other than to point out the vaccination rate on the 12 to 17-year-old age group is low at the moment. Even for folks who are getting vaccinated, lots of them are ways off from 2 weeks past the second vaccine if they got Pfizer, which was the one that was available to them. And then there remains also the issue about which not everyone agrees about the risks either to kids under 12 or from kids under 12 as well.
But the risk from whom to whom, by whom to whom? I'm sorry, I'm not making any sense, but
The risk of a kid being infected or a kid carrying COVID and infecting someone else.
But this would be only people who are vaccinated, right?
But no kids under 12 are vaccinated at the moment.
Right, so they would have to wear masks in certain circumstances, right?
It could be, it's just whatever rule we decide.
Well, the draft rule basically said that you have to wear a mask when you're coming in to get to where you're sitting. When
Right.
you're sitting there, you don't wear a mask. And when you're going to the pool and back and in the pool, you don't wear a mask. So it would effectively be, once you get there, you'd only be wearing a mask if you're going to the snack bar, using the bathroom, changing, or, doing some kind of recreational activity that's not in the pool, that is not in your area. Is that
Right.
fair to say?
Right. That's what we've pushed out so far.
I mean, that may be a way to start. I have a feeling that as we get through the next couple of weeks, the numbers are going to be so absolutely low that we'll feel confident to get rid of it altogether. But
and we may get clearer direction, but
I also think having a 12-year-old who just got the first shot, like I have a sense that the kids in that age group a lot of them are getting vaccinated. So you're right that they won't be at the 2-week pass mark when the pool opens, but they will be relatively soon.
Right. I mean, the problem, this is, of course, the issue that exists everywhere, which is if you ask everyone to wear a mask under certain circumstances, then it's clear whether the rule is being followed or not. If you say, well, if you're vaccinated, you don't need to wear a mask, and if you aren't, you do, then it's no longer clear whether everyone is following the rules. I mean, that's just the concern that folks who are most concerned about this are expressing. This is going on obviously everywhere.
And to be clear, we can't use the Excelsior pass and we
could. I believe we have the right to, but what would we do with that? You identify upon arrival that you are vaccinated, but once you're in the pool area, I mean,
right.
Then you give them a bracelet or a sticker or something.
I mean, the other thing is that
that is a fraught idea, I can tell you.
I mean, it works for clubs, so.
Yeah, no, I know, I understand, right?
I have a quick question. How does this, are we changing, I don't know if this is an update that Mike might know, what are we doing with like camp? Is there any change at all in camp?
Not at the moment. We're actively gathering vaccination information from all of our staff. So when that, probably have more guidance on camp and staff. But as far as the kids go, it's the same guidance. Under 12, they're not getting vaccinated. They're going to still have to wear their mask.
So it would make me think that to be consistent, at least we'd have to be consistent with the kids in camp and the kids coming to the pool outside of camp, because it would be totally confusing for all of them. So, I mean, I think at least it's easy to say that anyone under 12 has to wear a mask. I think we can all be in agreement on that.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think that set of kids is pretty used to that too. You know, I mean, I think that they're encountering situations too in which some adults around them are not masked. I mean, you see that even at pickup now, right? Especially outside. So they're now encountering situations where they're interacting with people who are vaccinated, some of whom may not be wearing masks, but they still are.
Yeah, I want to make one more pitch for the Excelsior Pass, because I think that, the goal is to get as many people vaccinated as possible. And if we could tell Nicole or Michael or Paul, hey, if you're vaccinated and you prove it with your app, then whenever you come in, we'll give you a bracelet. And that basically says nobody will bother you if you're not wearing a mask in any area of the pool complex. And that's an incentive for other people to get vaccinated.
It should be simple, shouldn't it?
Who's enforcing the mask? Is it the lifeguards or?
I'd like to jump in here because Paul, that's exactly I'm really of two minds about all this. I philosophically agree with David's point, and my experience of buying concert and Yankees tickets recently shows the value of having vaccinated sections and unvaccinated sections to things, and showing the social benefit of vaccination, which I think is very, very important in terms of public policy. Mm-hmm. But I'm also, Paul, you get to my question, which is the situation I most want to avoid is 14-year-olds trying to enforce a mask on a 50-year-old, in a public setting, which could lead to very, very difficult situation, right? Or an impossible situation, perhaps. So I don't have a great solution, but I feel both of these. I hear both of you very strongly. And
Mike, is it? Let's just say, for example, that the mask regulation remains as we presented it. Wear a mask when you're to and from, but not when you're in your area. Is it realistic that the adult pool directors can take charge of that? I mean, clearly, a lifeguard in a shift doing their lifeguard duties is not responsible for this.
Right. And I've already explained that to the guards, especially when they're in chair. They're not blowing whistles, worrying about people wearing masks. Their focus is in on the pool.
Mm-hmm.
yes, the pool directors can have an impact on that. It's kind of what David brought up. How are we policing this? Are we hiring additional staff? Are we doing bracelets? Because just showing something at the gate, that tells one person that this person's good to go. There's no way of tracking it throughout unless we're doing something additionally.
Well, further, inevitably, even folks who are intending to follow the rules will just forget whatever. You don't have to wear a mask to and from the pool. Whatever. Nobody's trying to. I do think there's some limits to how much control we can exert. I guess I'm a little inclined to leave the rule the way we presented it, which doesn't strike me as too draconian. Presumably on the average day trip to the pool, you would spend a pretty small percentage of it wearing a mask with the current rules. And if all systems go, and there's every reason to think perhaps they will be, we can back off. Does that seem reasonable?
I still think let's give people, the reality is that I suspect no matter what we do, we're going to get a lot of people, some vaccinated, some not, sort of starting to ignore the rule, particularly if we get a week or two into this and there's 0 cases Pleasant.
That's going on.
Yeah, one of the rules was you're supposed to wear a mask from your designated area to the pool. And I think I agree with David.
No, we didn't say that.
Yes, that was what it was. And then, because remember, there was a discussion of what you were going to do with the mask next to the pool.
Right, but that was quite a ways back. What we
so that's
pushed
been
out,
jettisoned at this point.
That was jettisoned when we first put out the pool.
So now it's when you come into the pool, when you go into the changing room, when you go to the snack bar,
right.
And where else?
That's it.
That's it.
In other words, what we're basically saying is, again, the rule as currently presented is you can go to and from the pool, no mask. Please maintain social distancing to the extent that's possible. When you're sitting around, you get up to wander to the snack bar or to the bathroom, wear a mask.
Well, social distancing is another issue. So are people still supposed to remain within their designated areas, or has that been relaxed a little bit?
Well, we're asking, we pushed it out. I can read what it says.
I'm pretty sure I read it, but I've forgotten. I'm sorry.
We ditched the striped pods and the idea that you would reserve a specific pod and you're asked to stay there. What we said was, please arrive and stick with your group and maintain social distancing. Do we have the capacity to enforce that in a significant way? I don't think we really do. By the same token,
we will still have the grid down and kind of push people to sit in that grid for the time being. I think we should have plenty of pods out there where that won't be an issue.
Yeah, here, let me share my screen. Here's what we said. Can you see that? Everybody see that?
Yeah.
Can I enlarge it? Can you read it? Come on, you can do it, Acrobat. Apparently you can't, Acrobat.
Yeah, so
okay, we can read it like that.
Whatever we do, it's going to be fine, I'm sure. But I just think giving that extra incentive for people to get vaccinated and, coughing up for a few bands. And then, honestly, it'll be self-policing, because if you can see the bands, then if their parents are really worried about this and they see somebody walking around or talking without a band, without a mask, then they have a way of saying, hey, this feels unsafe, and talking to someone, and then we can decide how to address it.
Yeah, the other thing I'm thinking about is, what about the 13-year-olds who have been vaccinated? Are they allowed to hang out with their friends? I also feel that, I know there are a lot of issues to weigh right here, but one of them I do think is incentivizing people to get the vaccine. And if we say to them, you get the vaccine and there's no, your behavior has to be the same as it was before, it's not a terribly good incentive.
The incentive is that you are safer, not only yourself and your.
No, I know. I mean, I know that I know what the reasons are to get vaccinated, but I think on a larger scale, for those who are more reluctant, I think that there needs to be some shift in terms of permissibility. I mean, that's my feeling.
You're right, Nicole. There's this group of people who are sitting on the fence. It's not the deniers, and it's not the absolutely follow the science people. It's people who feel like, well, I'm not sort of sure. And, in marketing terms, what we want is a little, boost to get them over the hump. And the difference between 65 and 70% vaccine compliance in the whole population could be significant for us. So I think when we have a little moment in public policy, when we could do something that gives people an extra incentive to take that step, that's good.
I agree with you in concept. I think that the reality of it in the field is that we're setting ourselves up for a summer of conflict.
Well, yeah, but how are we not setting ourselves up for a summer of conflict if we say you have to wear your mask, if you're going anywhere but to the pool, and then we've got a bunch of 13-year-olds who are running around who quite rightly have read the New York State guidelines and know that they're vaccinated and want none of it. It's still conflict. I'm just saying this way.
We're going to have it. There's no doubt about that.
No, but I'm saying this way it's much clearer, right? We've identified the people who are vaccinated. And if you want to have a conflict, we can have a fact-based conflict.
You're putting that line
I'm a little hesitant. I know you're talking about conflict, but you got to remember we've got young staff that are.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying your pool director, somebody brings them an issue and they may say, you know what, we'll take down the member who's doing this and we'll bring it to the board, or we'll bring it to Mike, or we'll bring it to whatever. It doesn't always have to get dealt with there. I mean, I think that's the point. This is more of a communal enforcement regulation.
I mean, it's not everybody's right. My thought, at least for starters, is that I feel like the rules we presented are really not draconian. And we very possibly will be able to relax them fairly soon. Recognize that June is not a big month for the pool. It doesn't really get rocking and rolling until school is over. So we've got some time here to sort of let this roll out. The nice thing about the way we presented it is nobody's singled out, nobody's vaccine shamed. I mean, there's some conflict going on already. I talked to somebody in a store who said, here on Wheeler, who said, we're having ugly interactions. We want people to wear masks and we're having ugly interactions. So those ugly interactions get ugly in a different way when people feel as though they are being publicly anointed as right-minded or publicly shamed as wrong-minded.
So if I could chime in with two comments. One is that there is a situation that is not mentioned on the flyer that I think is a very common situation, which is an adult from one conversation group walking across the pool grounds to talk to a group of adults in a different conversation group, right? And interacting with people they didn't arrive with. And that's one reason people go to a community pool, is to talk to people they did not come with, right? And in that situation, I can obviously envision people not wearing masks. And so we don't want to create a situation that is unenforceable and shouldn't be enforced. You've got a group of 4 vaccinated adults, and then they go over to talk to a group of 4 other vaccinated adults outdoors in the middle of the summer. I don't think that is discussed on our flyer, right? Because
no, it's not. In
that situation, they, according to our flyer, they should be wearing masks, which I can just say they're not going to do.
I mean, there are limits. People are not going to do. Some people are not going to do anything, right?
Oh, but they also shouldn't. They don't.
Okay. Well, you say that, but what they shouldn't if they know the other person's vaccinated.
If
or
they're
they shouldn't
vaccinated.
under any circumstances.
Well, that's under CDC and New York Health is if they're all vaccinated, it should be okay. That's why I'm just saying, like,
But if they're not,
if they're not,
the
they shouldn't.
CDC still more or less says you're okay as a vaccinated individual. It's the risk to the non-vaccinated, and that's a risk they're taking, right?
I kind of feel like outdoors, like in the pool area, if you're vaccinated, you shouldn't have to wear a mask. And I personally would just go on the honor system for that rather than.
Look, I again, obviously, we leave this in Mike's capable hands. I do not envision, honestly, that it will be realistic to be doing, some sort of tremendous mask enforcement. It would be perfectly reasonable to say, when you get up, go to the bathroom, please wear a mask. When you go you're in line at the snack bar, wear a mask. What you do on the deck is probably between, you and your God, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, let me make a different argument then. Let's say you're a nervous COVID person.
And believe me, a few of them
there
have
are
talked
there.
to me. Right.
But you follow the science, right? You're not nervous and saying I'm not leaving, I'm still, bleaching all my produce and all that. You're nervous like, I really don't want to spread the virus. I don't want to get sick. I've been vaccinated, but I really want to make sure that I'm not interacting with unvaccinated people who are not wearing masks. In the scenario that that's the base scenario here, there's no way of knowing who you're interacting with. And if they choose to keep their masks off when they're doing that, you have no fact-based way of saying whether they're doing something wrong again. You could say they're doing something against pool rules for sure, but you don't actually know whether it's something that's unhealthy or potentially dangerous. If at least you'd use the Excelsior Pass, then they could have, again, they could say, well, you know what? There's a group of people who are all vaccinated and I feel comfortable, engaging with them, or there's not. And then I either feel uncomfortable engaging with them, or I feel like the village is not doing its duty, but it's not based on my fears or nervousness. It's based on actual vaccination status. I just think it's giving a tool to the people who want to, manage their own health a certain way by being able to sort of see who is and who isn't. And then they don't have to complain if in Michael's situation where 4 vaccinated people talk to 4 other vaccinated people outdoors in the summer, that should be fine.
The CDC says it's fine to talk to an unvaccinated person in the summer, doesn't it? Outside.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't it depend upon it for the unvaccinated person, if they're in close contact outdoors in the summer, it would not be fine. It would be fine for the vaccinated person. So what I'm saying is that,
but I mean, the unvaccinated person knows the risk they're taking.
Yeah,
the unvaccinated person, right?
But there's still a potential risk to the community because our children can't be vaccinated, most of them, right? True. So I think that person has a legitimate concern that, they want to know if some behaviors are okay and some are not okay. That's all I'm saying. And
they do have a legitimate concern. I agree with you. I just think there's a limit to the level of control we can present.
Well, we're doing this at City Field. We're doing this all over the state now. So it's not,
but a very different circumstance where at City Field, you come in with your vaccine pass and you're sent to the vaccine zone. And there are all kinds of ushers to keep the unvaccinated from crossing into the vaccine zone. And we're not going to have, the left side of the pool is vaccinated and the right side isn't.
No, but
when people are in the pool, who the hell knows, right? I mean, if you're willing to go to the pool, you're willing to take on whatever risk you perceive, right? If you're extremely risk averse, you're not going to go to the pool.
Well, I think that there's a lot of grays in between there. I'm just saying, I think giving people better information is a good thing.
I agree with you. It's just a question of at what price, right?
Well, I mean, what's the price of our wristbands?
It's not, I don't mean dollars and cents.
I'm just saying, like, how does it change your behavior as a pool director? Otherwise, you're still going to get complaints either way. And you're going to have a harder time dealing with the complaints if you have no idea who's vaccinated and who's not vaccinated.
I think the problem is it's such a culture war issue, right? I mean, so
Right. I mean, it's a
not what-
culture war
that's not
issue.
what we're saying, but you know, it would be fine, you know, in a different
And recognize,
society.
you know, again, we theoretically have some capacity to do this. Citi Field and Madison Square Garden and Yankee Stadium are doing this because they can sell more tickets, and it's worth the effort to make it happen. In our case, that isn't really the game, and we don't have the capacity to say, okay, you're vaccinated, you go this way, you're not, you go that way. When you go to the grocery store or a restaurant or a movie theater, you know, folks are deciding what level of risk they are willing to take. I'll go to the grocery store, big open environment. I won't go to a restaurant, whatever it is. But essentially, we're now in a world where, to a large extent, the CDC has said it's an honor system. But the good news is, if you're vaccinated, the fact that some folks won't have followed the rules is probably of relatively little concern to you, and certainly of relatively little concern outside, right?
However, relaxing the rules, the thing that we do know as a data point is that relaxing the rules has actually led to a significant increase, like what, a 20% uptick in pool people signing up for the pool since that last email. I mean, it was pretty significant, right? So
Well, I mean, it was hard to say exactly what it came from. I mean, some people were just late in signing up, but clearly it helped.
Yeah.
Folks,
So what I'm saying is this is an opportunity for a further boost. We could actually, the way to market this is to say, hey, if you are vaccinated and you're willing to, you know, get the Excelsior Pass and show it, then you don't have to wear a mask at the pool at all. And that's like an additional boost for those people who find the whole thing aggravating since they've been vaccinated.
Yeah, I'm guessing without having any knowledge of the fact that the boost we got was, okay, I don't have to make a reservation. I can go when I want, and I won't have to leave for 30 minutes.
Yeah, no, for sure.
The vaccine, the status and the masking is different
I
for
agree.
different folks, right?
I don't think it's a good way to go. I really think it's going to divide people more if you're singling out who's vaccinated and who's not. And this kind of juncture, and being that, you know, the pool is still part of the village and the village is the one making these rules. So suddenly now it's just going to divide it more. Trust me, I get the point. I get what we're trying to push for. There's other things that we can do to push for it. Like if there was some kind of, you know, I'm trying to think of doing things with like the businesses, where the businesses are offering more perks for people who are vaccinated. But I feel like in this juncture here, it's going to divide people more. It's going to put a lot more strain on the pool staff. I think what we have right now, I think it's a good way to start it. And we can always change it. We can always update it. There's nothing is written in stone. We feel out the situation and kind of get an idea how people are feeling. I mean, if it seems like we can lax it up more than we do, but I don't think it's the same kind of simple thing that we can just say, here, have a wristband. And I just don't know if it's going to go over well. That's just my belief, and just how I see, just, you know, between friends, between clients that I have, people are very set in their mindset. And the moment that you start singling them out, and especially if it's, you know, us as a village entity doing this, I think it can become problematic. That's just my belief.
All right, so we've got to come to a conclusion. I think Paul and I are of similar mind, which, just to recap, is to leave it the way it is for the moment and keep an eye on it. I mean, we've already said in what we said on Friday was we anticipate getting further guidance and further experience, and we may be able to relax this even further. That's my take on it. So Paul and I are saying, keep the mask thing the way it is. Don't require Excelsior Pass. See what happens.
So I would say if there's no support for Excelsior Pass, I would prefer to take the mask requirement off outdoors for above, you know, 17 or whatever, you know, for people who could be vaccinated, rather than try to enforce it, you know, to have the rule that's not going to be followed. I don't think you should have rules that are not going to be followed.
I would say the same thing as David, but revise it slightly, which is say that outdoors, you don't need to wear a mask if you're vaccinated but have it be like on, just assuming that people are following good behavior as far as that. And obviously we'll know that if they're under 12 years old, they couldn't be vaccinated.
So what is
subscribe
it?
to that.
And what's outdoors? Is the snack bar is outdoors?
Yeah.
Line at the snack bar, no masks. Interacting with the snack bar staff, no masks. Is that what you're saying?
If you're vaccinated, I mean, I would imagine that the vast majority of people are going to follow that rule, are not going to cheat. I mean, so you're talking about.
I'm sure you're right.
How many people are going to be unvaccinated and, flouting that rule in a place like Pleasantville? Not that many people, right? Like, I think, first of all, I think
like landowning in Argentina, right?
We have a good percentage of people who are vaccinated. And secondly, people are good to each other here. So,
Well, and if you do a different rule, then you're going to end up in conflict with those people. This way, at least you can, tell the staff at the bar, who are serving, that if they're not vaccinated, they better be wearing their mask because, they're going to be interacting with them. But people aren't going to wear their masks outdoors. I just think it's going to be a difficult situation. And they can always say, oh, I was just walking to the pool and I got distracted or whatever. And
I do not envision, my view of it, that we're going to have a sort of draconian enforcement. We are, to a large extent, depending on the goodwill of people.
Yeah.
That said, a line of people at the snack bar. I don't. Do we ever get a line at the snack bar, Mike?
Well, if we're depending on the goodwill of people, then let's follow the state guidelines. Right?
I mean, this is going to start happening anyway, right?
It's happening already.
It's going to have to happen. Like, people who are vaccinated are going to start gathering indoors as well, right? Without masks.
I mean, the conversation I mentioned today about the store was the store saying, for the moment, we ask that you wear a mask, and people coming in and saying, no.
Right.
Even though it's clear in the guidance that any private entity has the right to decide what they want to do. But, we're in this moment where even folks who are normally more reasonable are just fed up for perfectly understandable reasons. And they are quick to say, okay, enough. But when they say, okay, enough, that runs afoul of folks who say, this is too much too fast. I'm made uneasy by it. So. But
this is a different scenario we're talking about, right? Which is, first of all, it's outdoors. So the risk is smaller. And we're asking people to follow the existing guidelines, which is that, if you're not vaccinated, you have to continue to wear a mask when you're close, within 6 feet of other people. But if you are, then that can be relaxed outside. And I think relying on the goodwill of people is a reasonable way to go.
I honestly imagine that we are mostly relying on the goodwill of people. And we're just saying, when you come and go, when you go to the bathroom, when you're at the snack bar, wear a mask.
Yeah, but there's lots of other situations in the pool that are not any of those things.
No doubt. But I mean,
no, I'm just saying, like, I don't think it's realistic. I don't think it's fair or realistic to ask people to wear a mask when they're talking to friends at the pool that are not in their pod, that they didn't come with.
And I somewhat doubt that we would be enforcing it. Right?
Well, no, but why create a rule that you don't intend to enforce?
But okay. I think by saying that if you are vaccinated, then when you're outdoors, you don't have to wear a mask. I think it's also a gentle way of reminding people that if you're not vaccinated, you still have to follow the previous guidelines. And, hopefully those people who have chosen not to get vaccinated for their own sake, as well as the sake of others, will continue to follow those guidelines. And some people will probably, even if they are vaccinated, wear masks just because they're nervous and they're adjusting. But then we're asking people to self-regulate.
We're still wearing masks at school pickup. So, that's all outdoors. So.
But it's shifting, right? Like fewer people are. It's awkward, right? We're in an awkward phase.
Yeah.
I'm more okay with that. I'm more okay with encouraging him in that way and the honor system, then I think, right, this current moment, I mean, I could change my mind. And trust me, David, I love the Excelsior Pass. I think it's great. I mean, I just wish it just wouldn't divide people so much. And I've seen how negatively it's been. I've seen people conflicted amongst friends, among family, and it's a very, very difficult situation. So I'm not opposing your belief in what you want, because I'd want the same thing too. But I think I'm thinking it of a way that, I'm okay with that. I'm in agreement with, we do something like this on the honor system, and people don't have to wear a mask outside and by the snack stand or whatever. I think that's fine. People will hopefully do the right thing, but I really don't think we can do anything to single people out.
You got any want to weigh into this stew of stuff?
Me, Mike, or the other Mike?
Mike Newman. You too, though. You're going to be the Solomonic last vote here, you realize. So we'll come back to you.
I mean, clearly there's, we've been sitting here going back and forth. There's not necessarily a perfect path. For me, I would say either we're staying briefly with what we've put out there, or we're going on the honor system. Doing Excelsior Pass and bands is just adding another level of one divide, and explaining and having students checking IDs or passes at the gate is just not something I think I want to put on more on my staff. That is all some new staff. So, to me, it's, that's the two sides I stand on. Either we start this way and clearly there's going to be more guidance and we can loosen it up more and more, and we're on the honor system. People are going to be, like Nicole said, people are going to be vaccinated and still uncomfortable. I'm one of those people, I don't know when to wear it or not to wear it anymore. So I just have it with me. So
I can just see it now. We're going to have, some 13-year-old jumping into the pool. The parent will realize that he or she has the paper COVID vaccine thing in the pocket.
Right.
Into the pool. Everyone reaches up shrieking. The thing floats up. It's going closer to the scupper that's going to suck it into the filter. Right.
I mean, I think the reason we kept, we put out what we recently put out was, we loosened things up. You don't have to reserve a pod, so people come and go as you please, which is really what everyone wants. But we're kind of asking to sit in an area and wear a mask when you're going to a couple spots. Otherwise, if you're sitting on one end of the pool and you're going to go to the kiddie pool, you can walk to the kiddie pool or the shallow end and get in the pool without a mask. That was always the case, which is a little wacky to me to begin with. But,
no fraternization or displays of affection among teenagers.
So here's
good luck.
All right. Bring us home, Peppered.
Here's my proposal. When we look at the flyer that was sent around, my proposal is to delete bullet point 1 of the masks are required section.
Can you refresh our memory?
I will. Hold on.
Yep. That's my proposal to get us through this this complicated phase we're in.
Okay, delete this.
Correct. That's my proposal.
So, Michael,
not to say anything else, but to delete that bullet.
Okay.
Oh,
so we
it's
say
not
in
to
the
say.
building, restrooms and snack bar, arriving and departing.
So does that mean if you're not vaccinated?
I'm proposing to say nothing about vaccination status.
Really?
I vote yes.
But to delete that bullet point, because that's the one that is least enforceable and will not be enforced and will not be followed.
Yes. All right. I support the Peppered compromise.
So then people are just self-regulating, basically.
My vision of the compromise is to not talk about vaccination status at all, but to create a system that is not going to be totally unenforced, which is adults.
Fair idea.
That sounds fine to me. I mean, it's basically implicit.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. I think that I'm for that.
Oh my God. Are we, David?
Yeah, it's fine.
Oh my God.
So everybody has to bring a mask with them though, right? To be clear? Because everybody has to have a mask on when they arrive.
Because they would have to use them. It's still the snack
Masks
bar.
are required when
Well, for the restrooms.
when arriving and departing.
Yeah, but everyone's, I mean, most people have them anyway. It's,
No, I'm saying like I think that's good because then they'll have to have one to come.
Yeah.
All right, hold on here. We're gonna just do this live here.
Masks are becoming bracelets.
Not that I want to add to this, but
Right.
Yeah, why don't you switch the order under masks are required and put arriving and departing first, and then in the building, restrooms and snack bar second.
I support
there's
that.
there's our marketing guru working on our messaging.
so are you guys in agreement where we're just allowing people to sit where they want and worried about the grid pods laid out on the deck?
I mean, I think leave the grid pods there. When they wash away, they wash away.
Okay.
Right? What do you think? Eric, you want to weigh in? Or are you?
I think the grids are good ideas for the sake of teenagers.
Yeah,
I think because I think there are going to be pods of vaccinated friends whose parents may tell them, sit with your group.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's good to keep them there just as kind of a visual layout.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we have the cells for that, the lockable cells.
Would it make sense also to kind of put a PSA announcement essentially like about all this, explaining to everyone what we're looking at, not just this obviously, but really kind of putting it out there and sharing it to like the 10570 group and things like that, so that, again, implicitly we're encouraging everyone to be vaccinated, but here are the rules of what's happening.
Yeah.
Because it's confusing. It's a bit confusing.
Yeah. How about this? I'll make a thermometer sign, the percentage of vaccination, and we can adjust it every day like the United Way.
So I have a question. So are teenagers still not allowed to go to the pool just by themselves, or soon to be teenagers, in the abstract sense? I'm not thinking about anybody in particular.
What was the answer on that, Mike?
Asking for a friend.
So the age was changed. We did change that, partly on some feedback from directors that 12-year-olds and 13-year-olds unsupervised leads to kind of babysitting and issues at the pool. So I changed it to 15.
But I guess my question is not just can they arrive, I'm not talking really about unattended so much as like, so they don't have to arrive with the kids that they're going to hang out with necessarily.
Based on what we're saying now, no.
Okay.
There's no way.
Here's what we said. Here's what we said at the moment. Right here.
Yes.
Okay.
You happy with that?
Depends how you define happy.
Do you want us to add a codicil except Nicole's kids who are so well behaved they can come on their own?
Except kids whose names start with R.
I mean, 15 is a jump from 12. It's definitely different, but the feedback I've got is the 12, 13-year-olds, 14 tend to be an issue. I thought 12 were young. So, I mean.
No, I hear you. I
did already have somebody email me kind of not happy about that change. But, I'm open to thoughts, but I thought that was a benefit to everyone and my staff.
I'm fine with 15. I see both sides of it, but I'm fine with it. Especially how they travel in groups. A group of 8 13-year-olds unaccompanied is a significant burden.
And that's what it always ends up being. And not to say they're all bad, but
No, they're good, but it's
leads
a
to
lot.
issues.
It's a lot.
Right.
There'll be an Excelsior Pass version for emotional maturity. If you're above a certain
You
point.
should make a Pleasantville one. Pleasantville
Yeah,
Pass.
exactly, right.
And then we have a couple other items on this front. The senior center, last meeting, we talked about the game plan moving forward. And then, of course, the guidelines were
Because
updated.
poor Joni has been suffering this whole time while we.
Yeah.
I've
So,
been doing lots of other things. Just
All right.
Sorry, Tony.
so the question is, does the board want to stick with the current protocols in place at the senior center, or adopt some of the state standards now?
Joni, what do you think?
I prefer to stay with current protocol.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I'm not.
I'll defer to Joni.
Yeah, I agree.
them all taking their masks off and running amok.
Okay. Well,
It's the
Better than you
12-year-olds and
calling
the
the shots.
9-year-olds they're worried about.
This is true.
All right.
I think
And
that
then
makes sense.
Village Hall, saw the memos attached to the agenda item, basically adopting state guidance for employees. So if you're vaccinated, it's up to you whether or not you want to wear your mask around the office and in the halls. If you're unvaccinated, you have to. I think the bigger question is whether or not we mandate masks of visitors. We don't have a greeter at the front door asking for proof of vaccination. So some of the feedback from the staff is that they prefer the rule to be everybody must wear a mask upon entry to a municipal building.
well, I think it should be what you guys want or feel comfortable with. So that sounds good.
Okay. And then on the final front is ESO youth sports. Got some outreach from John Vamosi about whether or not the board would be willing to move off of the mask protocols for youth sports players, for the spectators and coaches who are vaccinated. That's more clear. But for the youth sports participants, do we want to keep with the village protocol, which, if I remember correctly, is kids have to wear masks at all times when they get to the field, on the sidelines, even while playing. And I believe we said that the medical tolerance, do we ask for, I don't think we asked for.
No, we just said if someone, but I mean, again, recall that the issue there was to align with the school. Because we initially had this circumstance where the school said masks were going to be required for participants. And John came to us and said, we don't like their rules. We want to play on your fields. And hopefully you won't have that rule. In the end, I think he came to agree that it was prudent at the time. But I do think it is important that if we change that rule, we do so in concert with the school, because otherwise we add to the God knows what confusion that already exists in the world, right? I mean, it can't be that if you're playing on our fields in a school game, you don't wear a mask. And if you're playing on the school fields in a school game, you do, or vice versa, right? We just cannot be in that situation. I
think the kids are doing all right with the masks too.
I have had a fraught exchange with one mother who says her child comes off the field purple and blotchy and that it's a disaster. And I said, look, if your child cannot tolerate a mask, there's already an exemption there. But I will say I've not heard that from anyone else. What's your experience? You have kids in soccer, right?
Yeah. I mean, they seem fine. I mean, I will just say parenthetically, when you were describing this, not to raise another big debate, but this is a situation where I could see David's bracelet idea coming into play. I mean, they have such close contact with each other. I don't know.
Well, maybe we can do that along with the metal detectors and.
The kids, my 6-year-old is in T-ball now, and none of them have any problem with it. So
yeah, the kids are surprisingly
right. Does anyone feel otherwise, I mean, I feel like we cannot change the rule unless the school feels they should change their rule too. Any opposition to that?
I would appreciate that just personally.
I mean, we have to be aligned.
Totally.
High school sports are wearing masks right now.
Right.
You know, it's all happening. So just keep on with it.
Okay. It's only a month left, right?
Yeah.
All right.
There's your answer.
Let's go.
God, we were definitive about that. We didn't need a peppered compromise on that.
All right. All right. So executive session, I sent the number.
All right. Call in. We'll make it quick. I promise.
Right.
Sounds good.
Good night,
Thank
all.
you, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Night.